To be back after a long week at the PGA Championship and then embarking on more PGA Tour stops. All this brought to you, by the way, by Casa de Campo down in the Dominican Republic. Pete Dye designed 4 incredible courses. I'm going back in a couple of weeks. I urge you to take your family. Go to casadecampo.com and plan it out. It will be a vacation that you will remember forever. All right, our next guest I'm so excited about because I've admired the work of Gary Williams for a long time, whether it was Golf Channel many years ago. Listen, I'm an old guy, right? Or his new show, 5 Clubs, which is on the Golf Channel, simulcast on Sirius XM. Gary, first off, it is great to see you. I saw you a zillion times last week on television, but it's good to see you now on the show. Thanks for being with us.
Doug, it's my pleasure. Always appreciate the interludes that we get. They're too infrequent, it seems like, these days, but love seeing you and looking forward to this conversation because we hold on to these majors and chew off all the meat on the bone until we get to the next one.
Yeah, we do. And before we get into Aaron Rai and that incredible performance on Sunday, you know, I play golf with people occasionally, not as much as I used to, but they always ask me, what's going on with this 5 Clubs? Explain it to me. And I didn't realize 5 Clubs honors the original 5 USGA clubs back in 1894, Gary. I just learned that doing research. I'm sorry I didn't know, but that actually is a very cool thing.
Thank you. You know, look, we didn't try to be cryptic. It wasn't like, well, let everybody figure out what we are. I'll tell you the truth. When we were trying to come up with the name for this media platform, there were a couple things. What had not already been copyrighted? And then secondly, we wanted to achieve 2 things. One was, hey, look, how about paying an homage or honoring something that was foundational in the game of golf, which those 5 original clubs certainly were, which made up the construct, as you said, of the charter of the USGA in 1894. And the other thing was, Doug, I didn't want to have a name that people could shorten. Like, everybody turns everything into an acronym.
Yes, they do.
Know? So it's like, okay, if you want to say 5 C's, you're really pushing it to shorten the name. So that is, and I will tell you, I've had a handful of people who, like you in the industry, have said to me, I don't get it. Like, what is it? And including Justin Thomas's dad, who came up to me at the Masters, is like, Gary, what is 5 Clubs? Is it like 5 clubs in a bag? Is it like playing with, like, no? And I told him, he's like, oh, okay, I get it. So look, if it's a conversation starter, I'll take it. But that was, it was, hey, look, they did something special. We just want to modestly contribute to the game of golf.
Yeah, well, now I know, and I can explain it to my buddies. I really had no idea before. I was kind of like, I don't know. Next time I see Gary, I'll ask. So we'll find out. All right, let's talk about Aaron Rai, the performance yesterday. I mean, Gary, come on now. I know you do your picks before the tournament. He was not on your radar screen. He was not on anybody's radar screen. And to think, as you know, the hardest thing to do in professional golf is close the deal, especially on Sunday in the back 9, especially when it's a major championship. And this guy was unbelievable, Gary. How surprised were you that Aaron Rai closed the deal to win the biggest tournament in his life?
Yeah, I'm surprised, sure.
Yeah, sure.
This is somebody who, you know, I said it on my show this morning, Doug, he's not Jack Fleck.
No.
From Bettendorf, Iowa, who was, you know, just trying to keep the lights on. This guy's finished in the top 20 in the world golf rankings the last 2 years. He was 44th coming into the week. He's won some big events on the DP World Tour. Those are relative to this, the gravity of this. And for that guy to not only execute, to hit the quality golf shots he hit. And I thought, I don't know how you felt, the long bunker shot on 13, he didn't hit no chunk and run. Like, hey, I'll dummy this down, and I don't want to try to fly it all the way to that back shelf. That showed me that that guy was in a space that was special. And then the 2 full shots on 15, the second shot on 16, he had a realistic chance to make eagle there. The roadmap putt he makes on 17. But I will say, my mother has a major championship pool, and there's 15 of us in the family in it. The guy who had Aaron Rai among the Group D players, this guy.
No kidding.
Right here.
Wow. That is unbelievable. Seriously?
I picked him to cash a decent check out of Group D, but I get the W out of him.
Well, listen, Aaron Rai is a unique guy, and I've had a chance to interview him and follow him, and he really is a very thoughtful man. And I've interviewed him after rounds, second rounds, third rounds, and He goes into great detail. He's very articulate. I like him. He's just a very likable guy. And I'm proud of him too. I have to admit, I got some chill bumps yesterday just watching the closing shots there with his wife and his caddy and the way other players were coming up and greeting him. That was very, very special.
Listen, you have sensibilities that are very much in line with mine. First of all, we both appreciate the challenge of this pursuit. You're out there week in and week out. You see guys who have, bad days and bad weeks. And someone like Aaron Rai, who has this authentic level of humility / gratitude for what he gets to do. And I spent some time with him last year at the Memorials, it was a year ago, and I asked him the question, and I said, I don't want to pose it because it's rhetorical, but I didn't say, do you think gratitude can affect performance? I said, I know it does. Why does it? And he gave me this, to what you said, thoughtful answer about, it doesn't take long to remember how, he said this. He is to do what he does. And I think that is reflective in his behavior, in his actions. It's one thing to talk about, I want to do good things. It's another thing to be a really decent person who's really appreciative of the path that he's on. And whether people want to say, well, this won't rate very well, I'll tell you where it rates with me, right here and right here.
Yeah. Yeah, it was special. There's no doubt about it. And Gary, you always think back of moments, right? And I think it was probably 5 years ago. Tiger was at Riviera. One of the last times he really played a competitive round. In fact, I think he pulled out on Friday. He was sick. But during the Wednesday Pro-Am, Aaron Rai goes up to Tiger, introduces himself, and just explains, listen, we've never met. I'm Aaron Rai. Tiger, I don't think Tiger knew who he was. Would you mind if I walk these 9 holes with you? Tiger said, come on. And I thought, how cool is that on Tiger's half? But also, that took a lot of moxie for Aaron to walk up and introduce himself. But that says a lot about who Aaron Rai is.
Oh my gosh, it gets back to what you were saying, what I was just saying about humility. How many players in a field, he's in the field, but he's not in the Pro-Am, would have kind of the self-assuredness to say, look, this is not going to embarrass me. This is my way of just showing my level of appreciation for the inspiration this guy has been to me and a whole generation of golfers. And by the way, that day, it was bitter cold out there.
My goodness, was it cold.
And he walks 9 holes with an idol as a fan and as somebody who appreciates all that Tiger had done for the game. That to me sums up who Aaron Rai is.
Yeah. I remember that day vividly. I went into every trailer, Titleist, Ping. Can I please get a warm hat? Because it was so cold. I think Ping came through for me, but that was a great moment. All right, Gary, let's turn the subject a little bit to next year, because I know Brian Rolap is in the process of coming up with a newfangled schedule. We talked about it ad nauseum, what potentially could happen. It does look like he wants to go to big markets. Just in a big market, Philadelphia came out for the major championship. Very cool. He's talking about New York. He's talking about Chicago. And Gary, I wanted to ask you this because you're in North Carolina. NASCAR is huge.
Yes.
Not as big as it used to be, as they got away from the model of going to the smaller tracks. Then they went to the super speedways. Ratings have dropped. Popularity has dropped. Is there a possibility the PGA Tour could be falling into a similar trap?
It's an excellent question. It's one that, it's one thing, look, you called NFL games and you know how big that brand is. And
yes.
It's not that Brian Rolap is thinking the PGA Tour can be the NFL, but the idea that, Philadelphia and New York and Chicago and Boston, I get it. They're great big markets. But the NFL does really well in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yes, they do.
John Deere Classic does really well in Moline, Illinois. And those brands of whether it's the National Football League, but in this particular case, the soul of the PGA Tour cannot be sacrificed for the pursuit of big markets, because markets don't matter to fans. Fans watch Hilton Head. It's a bedroom community in the low country of South Carolina. So I think I get it, but here's the challenge about, the idea of not only going to those markets. First of all, where are you going to play? If you're gonna devise this mini rota of golf courses that don't have to annualize the commitment to their membership of saying, hey, by the way, we have a shorter season, and in the heart of that season, we're going to give up the golf course for the next 5 years. That's not easy to do. That's not easy to do down the street at Quail Hollow, which has made an enormous. And by the way, Charlotte is, a top 25 market. It's a great golf market, and it's proven to be just that. So I don't think if you want to pursue those markets to be able to have them as part of the landscape of the PGA Tour, you cannot do that at the expense of these places that are the ones that are most recognizable to the fans who watch golf week to week on television.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So I'm anxious, to say the least, about what lies ahead in 2027. Rory announced yesterday, Amanda interviewed him afterwards, listen, I'll be at Jack's tournament, the Memorial. I took 3 weeks off prior to the Masters, 3 weeks off prior to the PGA. Scotty and Rory, first time we saw them playing in the same tournament since the Masters. I kind of refer to Rory's schedule, and he's certainly earned, he can play wherever he wants. I get it. It's kind of like load management in the NBA, right? He shows up when he wants to, regardless of whether the fans want to see him or not. I just think moving forward, Gary, we're going to see less and less of Rory, even though the new plan is to have less tournaments, so the big names will play more often. That could backfire a little bit, right?
Yes, it could, and it kind of already has to a degree, because how'd you like to be in a position where you just pass on no-cut signature series events? Can you imagine how good or how much of a career you would have already had? I asked this question to Michael Kim a couple weeks ago in Charlotte. I said, is one of your goals to get to where you can just take weeks off the signature series events? Because, a guy like him was just now getting into position with respect to Rory's schedule and as it relates to what we all want. These are the two best players, and Cam Young's having a great season. And I'm not getting into the strokes gained, metrics of John Rahm. He's not there. So I'm talking about guys who would be able to play in PGA Tour events. It's very infrequent that they play well at the same time anyway, whether it's those two or any two generational players. Phil and Tiger, had a handful of interludes on Sundays in their careers. Same is true of Jack and Arnold. The same is true of Sam Snead and Ben Hogan.
Good point.
So here we are. They're both in this space, and there's 3 monster events between the first major and the second one, and the two of them don't play in one of them together. That's
Crazy.
A problem.
Yep.
That's a problem. And let me just say this about Rory.
Yep.
Whereas Scotty is the great domestic property, he's not likely to play anywhere else around the world. Rory plays a lot of fall golf. So while that load management is an applicable term for him during kind of the core part of the PGA Tour schedule, Scotty doesn't play any competitive golf from Labor Day until he goes to the Hero in December. And Rory's playing the Irish Open. He's playing the Dunhill Links. He's going to play those 2 events in the DP World Tour Finals Series. He may, add another one. He's playing the Indian Open. I mean, there are probably 5 events that Rory will play from after post-tour championship until the holidays that Scotty won't play any. And they're all not PGA Tour events.
Interesting. But yeah, no, they have totally different mindsets, different schedules, and Scotty is a USA-based guy. This week, Byron Nelson playing the 3M Open later this summer up in Minneapolis, which was in addition to his schedule. So something to look forward to. Gary, I have admired your work for many, many years, and I got to tell this story because it was back at the beginning of the season, and I'm driving to Ponte Vedra to do some PGA Live work, right? And I'm listening to your show, and you go on this, it must have been an 18-minute soliloquy about Rory. And it was incredible because you were talking about when you met and you had a TV show where you caddied for him and, his dad, this or that. And I'm driving along and I'm mesmerized, number one, because this is ad lib. This is total, you're just talking. And I was like, finally, when you finished, you went to commercial. I was like, golly, that was one of the best 18 minutes I've ever heard of golf. I mean, Gary, it's just, you make it sound so easy. And I say that because I do think you're top notch. And how easy is it for you to talk golf? Because that particular day, Gary, it was coming out smooth.
Well, Doug, that means a lot. You know, it's funny that you put it at the 18-minute mark. Tommy Roy, the longtime producer of golf on NBC, he will text me periodically and he'll say 12 and a half minutes. That's all he'll write. And when I saw him at the Players, he said, you set a new record. It was 14 and a half. And here's the thing. Look, we're both garden variety, TV, radio, gas bags.
Right.
And we love the fact that we get to do what we get to do. Look, I always wanted to do this. I didn't just love sports. I loved watching how sports was presented on radio and television. And, you know, it's funny. My mother was a literature major, insisted that I read a book every week when I was growing up. And I have great appreciation for the written word. And this is a true story. When I was 7 years old, the Monsignor at our church went to my mom and said, do you think Gary would read the nativity scene at the Christmas pageant? And my mother said, yeah, I think he probably would. And he said, well, there's a microphone. And my mother's response was, well, and he definitely will.
She knew you very well.
Doug, I love conversations. I love to talk. I love what we get to do. Talking about golf is something that, you know, I love it because, you know, it gave me time with my dad, who brought me into spaces and places with men and women that he loved. He dragged me on all these corporate outings when I was 12, 14, 16 years old. So look, it's intensely personal in like the best way. And so if I did hit 18 minutes, I better let Tommy Roy know that there's a new marker that I laid down.
Well, maybe I was a little off on the time, but you do know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That might have been, and who knows, maybe your clock and Tommy's, it might have been the same thing because it was right around that same time. But yeah, and I get all my buddies, they'll text me and be like, my God, enough of the monologues. And they mean it in an affectionate way. But look, when that red light goes on, it's the greatest gift ever. For me. And
for me too. And again, I told you that story and conveyed it to the audience because I was impressed. I know how difficult it is to just start rolling, and you never stumbled, you never hesitated. And anybody else driving around was thinking, wow, he must be reading off something that he typed out. I'm like, no, that was an ad lib, off the cuff. Gary, it was great.
Thank you. You know, again, I just, I think part of it, you know, when I listen to you call golf, you don't know what the result is going to be. And you don't have taglines and scripts. And if he makes birdie here, then it's an extemporaneous exercise that comes from a place that, you know, you're passionate about what you do. And look, you have a skill calling golf. I couldn't do what you do. I love what I get to do, but thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean it from the heart too. Been very impressed by your work for a long, long time. Well, Gary, we appreciate it. We'll let you go because I know you're rocking and rolling these days. You might be the busiest man in golf right now. I don't know. Maybe at least upper echelon. It's again, it's like you and I work in the candy store. Yes, sir. This is not breaking rocks. Exactly. It's talking golf, and this is a glorious time of the year. My God, I mean, we're going to be on the east end of Long Island in a blink of an eye. Can't wait. But between now and then, look, you get Scheffler, the loyalty of, you know, Spieth when he was at the height of his powers, and now Scheffler. These events, in terms of overall strength of field, for them to get, you know, guys like that, and then obviously Jack's event, there's nothing like the handshake walking up the hill. Yes. At Memorial. And then the next thing you know, you and I are going to wake up in the middle of July and it's going to be over. But it won't be over, but you know what I mean. It goes by so fast, it really does, especially as we get older. Did I say that? You know, nobody's getting older, Gary. We're getting younger, right? Yes. Okay. All right. Hey, buddy, thank you so much for the time today. All the best. We'll talk to you down the road. All right, Doug. Thank you, buddy.